What up, nerds, and welcome to another puppeteered episode of Straight Chilling, the weekly horror movie review show where you chill and we kill, slice, dice, and chop up yet another horror movie. My name's Bob. I'll be your host for the evening. This is episode number 375, recorded Sunday, June 12th, 2022. Tonight we're talking about another Patreon pick. This one was chosen by Diego. The movie is Possum from 2018. Before we get into it, let me introduce everyone else on the show. First up, calling in from Washington, D.C., we got our boy Randu. How do?
Who's your favorite possum?
Hey, buddy. How's it going?
Dude, what is that bump from? What?
I mean, if I told you, I'd have to kill you.
Okay. You're my favorite possum, Randy.
I know. That's why I played it. I'm fishing for compliments on my possumdom here.
Yep.
Please submit.
Way you play dead better than anybody I've ever seen in my life. So well done.
Come on, man. Jeez. That's good stuff.
Wasn't that nice of me?
We call you Roadkill Randy for a reason. Last but not least, calling in from South Korea, we got our boy Soju. What's up, man?
What up? It's your boy. The Soju is crazy, strange, and deep, but he has promises to keep. After cake and lots of sleep, sweet dreams come to him cheap. He rises from his gentle bed with thoughts of Yabos in his head. He eats his jam with lots of bread, ready for the day ahead. Stains.
And it also isn't penetrating you. That's a bummer.
Heavy bread, light jam. That's the way you go.
I mean, it's good to know your jam preferences, but I'm not sure that added anything.
To be fair,
actually, I'm heavy on the jam. I've
seen you eat a whole loaf of bread in one night. To be fair, jam.
I've seen you eat a whole thing of turkey, Bob. Let's not go there.
We've all eaten things we regret in life.
Ain't that the truth?
Usually whole things of them.
Large amounts of things.
Yeah, quantity.
Costco size
is not the way to go.
Things.
I usually am heavy on the jam. I like to be real heavy on the jam.
Yeah, I prefer jam to jelly.
I'm heavy on the base, personally.
I'm a jammy guy, not a jelly guy, for sure.
Yeah, I could go either way. I'm fine.
Y'all skipping out on the preserves, baby. Come on.
We need to understand the difference.
Where's the marmalade love here?
We're not covering possum anymore.
Do you guys go
lemon curd? No,
like butter and your schmear, or is it just your jam jelly?
Depends on how clogged I want to be in my arteries that day.
Yeah, I typically go with one or the other, but I'll mix it up every now and then.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
My relatives they jar their own mayhaw jelly, which is really nice.
Their own what now?
Mayhaw.
Yeah, what is that?
Mayhaw. It's a berry. It grows on trees in the South.
Yeehaw jelly.
Yeehaw jelly.
Yeah. The berries
jelly?
The berries are sour, but you just sweeten the shit out of them, and the jam is delicious.
I mean, jam is not known for not containing sugar, so
recommend it. Try it out.
Okay.
All right.
Anyway,
Mayhew jelly.
Maybe jelly.
The McMahon jelly.
Let's get into some housekeeping real quick. Here's another reminder. We've got our July poll pick currently posted on our Patreon website. If you support us at the $5 level or above, you get the chance to vote on a movie we're talking about this July. The theme for July is Animals Run Amok. The movies to vote between are Lake Placid, Arachnophobia, and Island of Dr. Moreau.
Whoa, Bob, tell me how those numbers are looking.
Woody woo. Lake Placid is in first place, followed by Arachnophobia, followed by Island of Dr. Moreau.
All right. Heavy on the spider choices, possibly.
Yeah, maybe so.
After Possum.
How close is Moreau in the back?
Moreau is 4 behind Placid. Arachnophobia is 2 behind Placid.
Okay, so they are
close,
spitting distance of each other.
Yeah, you could hock a loogie and hit them all if you wanted to.
I guess
I will.
I guess people just hate John Goodman. Okay.
Well, okay.
Nobody hates.
Justin just took a Korean class in reverse psychology.
Maybe they all just love Oliver Plath. You ever think of that? Mm-hmm. Or Betty White. You ever think of that?
Dude,
Oliver
Betty
Platt?
Platt, whatever. Yeah, that guy. You know the one. You know what I'm talking about.
Robert Plant? That the guy you're talking about?
Right, yeah, Robert Plant.
Yes. He is in Lake Placid. Everybody knows it.
Okay.
Get your votes in before the end of the month. We'll see what we're talking about this July. In other Patreon news, we did drop a brand new mini-cast last Friday. I was talking about the sci-fi television series Chucky, the entirety of the first season. If you support us at the $10 level or above, you get access to a whole backlog of Patreon exclusive episodes. We've got 68 episodes up there now, 69 coming
up next.
Coming
which one are we going to drop next? The infamous 69.
I don't know. We got a few banked to choose from.
Yeah,
we got to figure it out.
We'll have to decide. Got to make it a good one.
I've always been a creeper.
So you can check out all those mini-casts over on our Patreon website. Also, if you do sign up at the $10 level, you get an RSS link emailed to you, and you can drop that into your podcatcher of choice and listen to all of those episodes on iTunes or wherever you typically prefer to listen to your podcast app. We also, in Patreon news, have a brand new Patreon supporter we got to give mad shouts outs to.
Oh, shit.
Oh, shit.
Oh, shit. Big thanks to Etienne L for signing up and showing us some love on Patreon. Every dollar you guys contribute goes right back into the show. It helps us keep this show going, and we really, really do appreciate it. As is tradition around these parts, we owe you the straight chilling salute. This one goes out to Etienne.
Oh, shit.
Slap my ass. Slap my ass. Is that our running back, ETN?
A running back?
For the Jags?
Probably.
Yeah, we have a...
Oh, man. I'm from Jacksonville. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Dude, our running back that we drafted in the first round last year. His last name is...
Oh, yeah.
Ian.
Okay, yeah.
He came to Jacksonville because he likes our show.
Yeah.
That's why.
You don't know what death is.
You guys claim to love Jacksonville. Come on.
Come on. You
I
don't
never
even
claimed
know.
shit.
Our boy Travis Etienne. Come on, boys. You know.
Our boy, Travis. He'll be on our next show. Promise. He's our next guest.
Dude, he
That's
might show up.
promise.
He's my favorite possum.
Totally. What else we got going on? At the time of you listening to this show, we will have already released a bonus episode on our main feed, actually. Randy and I just recorded a recap of our experiences at the Overlook Film Festival in New Orleans, Louisiana.
Oh, my lord.
My lord. Slam that
It was
into
a den
your
of sin.
ear holes. It was. We ate, we drank, we were merry as fuck, and we got queasy in the Big Easy. Promise.
I forgot to ask y'all, how many hand grenades did you have?
We went in, and then I looked around and accounted for my age and then left.
That's exactly what happened.
That is exactly what happened.
Randy's
Like, well, this isn't my place anymore.
Randy's
I'm
like,
too old.
we got to get one. We got to get, when in Rome, we got to get one. We walked in, waited at the bar for a minute, and he was like, never mind.
I was like, what history am I recapturing?
Never mind.
Oh, damn.
So slam
Didn't
that.
even want that sweet taste on your lips, Randy?
It's so sweet. The
Sweet
minute-
taste of
the minute-
grain alcohol. Trust me, that's not the only source.
As soon as it hits your lips, it's just so sweet. Oh my God. Randy and I talk about like 8 or 9 movies or some shit, and then all the other stuff that we did while in New Orleans. Check that out. And last thing I got here, thanks to everybody that hung out this past Friday for our Joe Bob watch party. He showed Butcher Baker, Nightmare Maker, and The Baby, which is a movie we've covered on this show.
Oh, God.
La baby.
La Baby. That was episode 310, if you can believe it.
God damn.
I know. Covered that shit like a year ago, which is nuts.
A year and a half. Man, we're getting close to 400, boys. We need to come up with something.
Come
Yeah,
on.
we need to do something,
Something.
of some kind and do it, I guess.
We got to do something.
What if we just like reviewed a normal movie?
Impossible.
I was like, let's review Insidious 3.
A 70s Italian film.
Oh, God.
Your favorite.
Yeah, living your best life, I'm sure.
But yeah, that's all I got. You guys have anything you want to add?
Sure.
Rigatoni.
There you go.
Got it.
My house is clean.
Squeaky.
This house is clean.
All right, let's get into the main event. We're talking about Possum, and we're kicking it off with the back of the box.
What's on the back of the box?
All right, Possum from 2018 with a runtime of 1 hour and 25 minutes. This was written and directed by Matthew Holness, stars Sean Harris, Alan Armstrong, Andy Blythe. The synopsis brought to you by IMDb is as follows. After returning to his childhood home, a disgraced children's puppeteer is forced to confront his wicked stepfather and the secrets that have tortured his entire life. Gentlemen, had you seen this movie before, and would you recommend people check it out? Randu, kick us off.
I had not seen it. I had seen maybe 5 minutes of it before. For whatever reason, I had to turn it off. It wasn't because I wasn't interested. I've been seeing this poster for this movie on streaming services, jumping here to there on different streaming services for years, and I've always been interested in it because it looks very striking. That poster and the general art style, and it does carry through the movie. It's a pretty striking looking movie in a lot of points. But never did see it. I would recommend, but buddy, this is one of the heavier horror movies that we've talked about. It's definitely on that end of the spectrum. It's not a light watch, so bear that in mind.
All right.
But yes, recommend.
Juice, what about you?
First, Bob, I believe it's pronounced opossum, but
Possum.
I generally would recommend as well. This is a slow burn as well. So if you have trouble with those, it's also kind of low budget. So the combination of slow burn and kind of slim pickings in this one might drive, some people away. As Bob wisely recommended, also there's some thick accents going on, so it helps to throw on some captions. So if all those options don't sound favorable to you, then maybe skip out on this one. But I thought it was a pretty interesting surprise film for me that I had never heard of. I'd never seen the poster, didn't know anything about it, went in completely blind, and I was very pleasantly surprised with what I got. Bob, how about you? Had you seen Opossum? Would you recommend?
This was a total blind watch for me. I knew nothing about this movie, not even on my radar. I would give this one a light recommend. It's got some big David Lynch vibes, I think. Definitely a slow burn, very atmospheric and creepy. The story overall is pretty interesting, but I would say if you maybe struggle with some David Lynchian style storytelling, maybe it's not for you. But yeah, I'd give it a recommend with that caveat, I guess. Sounds like a decent recommendation here from the Straight Chilling crew. Let's drop that spoiler warning and get into the rest of the movie. Here we go.
Spoiler warning.
Bob, do you have a plot synopsis?
I got it right here. Let me plop it on.
Give it to me.
Our main character, Philip Connell, who is a disgraced children's puppeteer, is forced to return to his childhood home in Norfolk, which is shared by his decrepit uncle, Maurice. His childhood home is in disrepair due to a past fire. Philip is haunted by a horrific spider-like marionette in his possession called Possum, which he keeps in a leather duffel bag. He tries to dispose of the puppet several times, but it keeps coming back. Maurice frequently mocks Philip during their interactions, such as mentioning the disgraceful circumstances that cost him his job and sadistically requesting that Philip recount traumatic experiences of childhood bullying. News reports begin to surface of a missing local boy, Michael, whom Philip initially encountered on the train ride to Norfolk. Authorities indicate that a man fitting Philip's description is a person of interest in the disappearance. He revisits his childhood school, though he is discouraged from lingering by the school staff and is treated with suspicion by the local residents. In a period of distress, Philip enters the school and requests that he be allowed to speak to his old former teacher, Mr. Grant. He tells the secretary Mr. Grant knew all about what has happened. The confused secretary has him wait outside, but Philip overhears her speaking with the principal about calling the police, and he flees. When he returns home, Maurice is gone. Philip enters a closed room, which is revealed to be badly charred from the house fire. He is suddenly attacked by a masked man in the shadows. The man removes his mask and is revealed to be Maurice. He taunts Philip about the deaths of his parents in the fire, which left him orphaned and in his care, where he was beaten and sexually abused. Philip hears a whimper from a locked chest in the corner. He ends up overpowering Maurice and breaks his neck. He unlocks the chest, and a terrified Michael scrambles away. Sitting just outside the house, Philip stares blankly ahead with Possum's head in his lap. Roll credits.
Whoa.
Yay!
Woof.
Wow.
Who's your favorite possum?
Oh, a possum. He looks pretty rough.
That's a fucking terrifying puppet.
Yeah.
The way this puppet looks, it's so you don't see it right away. And in all of this, like, this has been like sort of the main thing that, not the main thing. One of the things I was very curious about with this movie, having seen the poster, the poster is just like a bag with some creepy, spindly spider legs coming out of it. So I'm thinking, okay, spider puppet. And it is kind of that. But as you actually get a good look at this thing, it is attached to like what looks like a charred chest cavity of a person. Like, it looks like that. It's not. It's like, it's to my knowledge not anything actually organic. And then that's got a starkly white gray face with like bolt open eyes staring dead ahead and like a sex toy mouth. Like, God damn. It's fucked up. It's really fun. And also it is clearly, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but to me, I clocked it right away as being exactly our protagonist's face, just recreated. Like,
oh, really?
A mold of his face. I'm pretty sure.
I did not clock that, but I was in doing research of like the movie or whatever. You're exactly right. They tried to make it look like his face.
Yeah, and they tried to make the guy look like the puppet also. Like, this is one thing that I noticed early on. Becky was watching this with me for like a few minutes, and then they were falling asleep, so they went to bed. But by the time we actually see the puppet or whatever, it starts to make sense. But they had clocked that he has like hanging his arms in a weird way, sort of out in front of him.
Yeah.
And it was Becky was like, did this guy have a stroke or what? And I was like, well, he's using his hands. It doesn't seem like it, but he just kind of hold them that way. And the way he walks, the way he holds his arms, and the way he like kind of lowers his head, he is mimicking the position of the puppet as it hangs on the wall, which they show several times.
They do some fantastic shots with it. There's the mirror one is something that pops into my mind where you can see it hanging in the back, and they utilize the fact that it's a puppet really well because it's just a terrifying visual. Mm-hmm. And they also kind of mix it in and tease it a little bit in the beginning with this children's book, which kind of reminded me of the Babadook. Just because of that similar black charcoal kind of style, which I thought was really smart. And so in a lot of ways, I thought that this film was able to capture a lot of great, like low budget ideas that went a long way.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And like to talk about the book, like this movie definitely takes cues in my mind from Babadook, which is like one of easily my favorite horror movies of all time, for the record. I love it, but it's like seems a little shoehorned in to have this book that's filled with these, first of all, incredible drawings, like charcoal, like fucking chiaroscuro, dark and light color drawings, as well as like these creepy childlike, nursery rhyme chants. That's it's just so Babadook that I'm like, I don't know, man, you're kind of riding some heels at that point. But at the same time, I have this feeling about even looking at the puppet and everything else in this movie to me overall, I got this weird impression that I was like, this is like what would happen if an adult got the rights to make one of the stories from the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark book, and then took the drawings and tried to mimic them tried to like really build some like really horrifying personal trauma tale out of this childhood joy. Like there was just some weird connection there. I forget the artist's name of that book series, but like some of the art in that booklet was very reminiscent of that stuff for me. That just the spindly sort of like gestural drawings. I loved that, but I also felt like it was a little bit derivative of Babadook at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it does seem a little bit unnecessary that this puppeteer would also be like an amazing artist and like craft this book and then leave it in his house. Like it definitely is like the way that he's expressing his trauma, because like he definitely internalizes it and like doesn't ever talk to anybody about it, and that's confirmed by his uncle at the end of the movie. He's like, you know, you never told anybody you were a good boy or whatever. His uncle's a fucking horrifying piece of shit, but it is sort of like unnecessary. Like the puppet would be enough to convey this story. The book is like really cool looking, and I like the children's nursery rhyme. It's like creepy as fuck, but it does seem a little unnecessary, I guess. Like, and would that be in this movie
like
without the Babadook at all?
Well,
You know?
I don't know. Let me go against a couple of those ideas and things possibly, because at the end, once he starts kind of getting abused again, he goes into this kind of regressive state. And in that way, even the way he walks and kind of goes and visits his old school, you have to think, is there some part of him that's in this state of arrested development or stuck in? He's even reliving these childhood traumas with the fox. He tells Maurice about when he was bullied about the fox. And we see later that without any kind of outlet, it relives itself in his mind. He's walking around. He thinks a fox is kind of stalking him or in some way. So in that way, I'm thinking, you know, is this just kind of his, did the book come before the Possum puppet?
It might have.
was my assumption. And also, we don't really know, but when he goes to the school and tries to talk to his old teacher, and he says he knows he knows what's going on because it's happened before. I was thinking, you know, did he tell this teacher back in the day? Is that why he's gone back to the school? And is that why he is in some way attached to this school where he's kind of lingering around there and stuff? And so I was like, those could be connected. And I don't know. I thought they covered their bases pretty well for all those options.
It's not that those things don't, I mean, I don't know about that second part. That part's fine with me. But as far as the book goes, the only thing I would say about it is not that it's terrible that it's there. I just feel like it's largely there because Babadook exists. And also that if you took it out, this movie would not suffer for it, really.
I disagree. I think I don't think it would be, I don't think that this movie, that made this movie so much better, but I think it helped with the idea of the spider and teasing it, the less is more, and building the suspicion of what am I going to see? What is it? I think that worked as a really good horror element.
I do
adding to this film. Yeah.
I like the idea that this is like a dark, twisted fairy tale that he's written himself to like express the terrible things that he's had to endure in his life. I like that. I don't know that it has to be in the movie, but I just dig it like aesthetically and how that obviously sort of influenced the look of the movie and how it was shot and framed and how they portrayed this like possum spider creature. It's like influenced by the book, and the book was obviously influenced by like as soon as the movie started, I was like Nosferatu, like German expressionism is definitely influencing this here. And as I already mentioned, I think like some David Lynch type stuff too as well. But it's all sort of like rolled into this like book that we get. I dig the look. I dig the aesthetic of it. It's creepy as fuck.
Yeah, I mean the aesthetic. I'm like, the thing is like I don't know. I don't want to harp on it, but it's a cool thing in the movie. I just don't see it as 100% necessary to tell the tale. And, you know, I guess maybe I could argue against myself because it is one of the few access points we get to some exposition. So maybe you have a point there, actually. I'll concede that. But to me, it would like especially because it just the cadence of this movie is also very Babadookie, where it's talking about a past trauma. Its color palette is like the Babadook. It just seems like it borrows quite heavily from it. And I love that movie. And I think that, you could definitely draw from worse sources than that. It just feels a little bit, just the slightest bit coattail ridey to me.
Mm. Yeah.
And that's a big similarity,
I could see it. And in a way, this feels super low budget. And throughout, I was giving it a lot of kind of credit for that, because I was like, they really are doing a lot with a little. And what they're able to get out of it is pretty impressive. But the overall story and some of the cuts are a little slim. They use it, though, to give some more credit. They use it as a pretty good red herring, because I was just kind of getting the feeling of this sexual trauma anyways, the way that this guy interacts, especially with the kids or whatever. But when they were saying that he was a suspect and he's been hanging out at the school and hanging out at the barracks and stuff like that, and the way that they cut with him trying to dispose of Possum, but it keeps coming back, I was thinking to myself, is he trying to get rid of a body?
I thought the same thing.
Yeah, is he, because he throws it in under this bridge and then he finds it with the head in the mud and then he tries to sink it. And I was like, that's a pretty good red herring. But they go to those cuts a lot. They're playing like this trauma out in his mind. And
sometimes seemingly randomly.
Sometimes. And so I was thinking to myself, are they slim on footage or story? Are they really trying to fill out this atmosphere or something like that? So I went back and forth. It was a good red herring. I did think maybe he was trying to hide a body, but at the same time, I'm thinking to myself, they use this footage too much.
I didn't see it as him. That's an interesting perspective, because I definitely didn't clock that as him concealing a body. I thought it was him. I thought the red herring was okay. Throughout the movie, Maurice ending up being the guy who kidnapped this kid was a complete shock to me. Shock to you guys or no?
Yeah, it wasn't really registering.
It didn't blow my mind, but I was like, oh, okay.
I did not anticipate that being the case. Yeah.
Yeah, neither did I.
So throughout though, I thought okay, so this is his, this thing represents not just his trauma, but also the damage that he also inflicts on others, including this kid that he probably had something to do with, but has compartmentalized it as this puppet doing it. I think that is a pretty clear red herring that I latched onto. And I was like, I would have been perfectly happy with that too, because the way it was presented was very effective, but having it turn around and be Maurice and still be also a representative of his trauma and stuff like that. I'm still not even 100% convinced that, he's disgraced for some reason. We never get a reason why he's disgraced, what happened with his puppeteering career, how the Possum puppet is involved. We never even find out why it's called fucking Possum. We don't know anything about any of that stuff. So we don't know, we don't know exactly how dangerous this thing is in the mind of this man we know it's dangerous to him as a person, as an individual, this thing that's in his head, this thing that's he can physically hold and puts into his life, that's in his life. But we don't know how dangerous that is to others. And that's what makes it such an effective mislead to have then Maurice, the guy who clearly inflicted some damage on the guy throughout, but we didn't, for whatever reason, I didn't clock him as being a chief danger. They do a good job of concealing that underneath this dude's, this dude's pathos.
He's just so old and beat down. He's a piece of shit, and he treats Philip
almost
horribly,
seems,
but he's not a threat. He's not physically imposing. And then when he tackles him in the attic, you're like, holy fucking shit, this dude's he's got a little steam left in him. That whole sequence is really dark, man. He's cramming his hand in his mouth, and it's
it's really dark.
An extremely dark scene.
I thought they did a good job of kind of infusing some maybe inspiration for the possum, because the way he does his fingers, he's got the 4 fingers and he's flailing them kind of around. He's like, you want Maurice's fingers, don't you? And they're kind of dark with soot because he never cleans himself, which is disgusting. And so in that moment, and it's also, again, like I was saying, it's when the guy kind of reverts and he starts kind of acting like a child again. And so I was thinking to myself, this really makes sense for book and stuff like that. And so I thought they did a pretty good job of kind of connecting those without having to tell you this is the inspiration or whatever.
Oh yeah. You can easily, I think that's true. Yeah. Like they don't bang you over the head with it or whatever, but there's a clear visual inspiration there. And also just the constant references to black and soot and the very dark legs, but the very white face. Like those things are all have to do with the fire that took his parents' lives.
Sure. Also not just the fire that took his parents' lives, but the fact that the abuse happened in the room where they did not repair where the fire took his parents' life. So there's soot everywhere.
Oh, is that?
So yeah. So he goes into, he goes into that room and there's the blanket laid out there. And that's where Maurice again attacks him and has the other boy. That is the area where he abuses them. And because of that, he has the black soot and everything all over his fingers, which he, uses to purposely abuse him and force into his mouth and things like that. So I thought that was a really good connection payoff in the end.
I didn't clock that was like his kill floor consistently. I mean, obviously it wasn't the end. I just didn't really garner that, but yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. The blanket on the ground it's all like stained and it's got a headboard.
I just thought that was his parent. And it was like, it was a traumatic room for him for that reason. I didn't really put together that was like the killing floor, so to speak.
Well, I think it makes it even darker, baby, because Maurice obviously uses this kid's trauma to affect him even more. He tells him, like, tell me this embarrassing story about yourself. He's teasing him about his parents dying, as he's abusing him. And so I thought that was just an added layer of the kind of trauma. It's like to do it in that room that took his parents' lives, which is really, really dark and fucked up.
Let's talk about this real quick, because I think this is all like about that. Like, so you've got this scene right before the climax, maybe, where, what is our lead's name? I keep just calling him something else. Philip. Yeah. So Philip goes in the backyard where he sees Maurice like burning some papers and stuff and saying, I'm going to leave town or whatever. Basically implying that you've made like you're on your own now because you obviously did some fucked up shit and I want to get out of here is basically the implication that Maurice is trying to give to Philip, or that's what I gather from it. And Maurice takes that opportunity to then burn the possum puppet. And they both do it, and Maurice is like uncharacteristically like emotional about this. He's like, he says something like, I don't even remember, but hey, like he's like, I'm sorry that all happened to you or whatever. Like he was like,
he's like, I didn't know.
Yeah, and I don't know what he's talking about exactly.
Me either.
That was really confusing. But also like, a few scenes later, he goes up, he says, we burned the puppet. What are you talking? And Philip's like, we burned the puppet. And Maurice is like, you must be confused, lad. I don't know. Cause like, he can't find the puppet's remains or anything like that. So what's going on there? Like, is the puppet like taking on its ultimate form as like just a symbolic thing that doesn't truly exist anymore? Like what's happening?
Yeah,
did it ever?
That specific puppet could just be in his mind because it keeps coming back and coming back, and it could be in his mind.
And as the same condition as before, seemingly.
And it starts moving on its own, which is definitely in his mind at that point.
Well, yeah, that's gotta be like, unless we're just going full bore, like I don't know, breaking from reality, pretty much.
Well, at that point. I wasn't thinking about this during the film, but listening to you describe it and kind of processing it. If he goes back and there are no remains and Maurice says, talking about we didn't burn it. And then you're also mentioning the idea of Maurice saying something very confusing and out of character, like, I'm sorry, I didn't know that happened to you, when we obviously find out that he does know what happened to him because he did it. Well, I'm saying maybe it's Philip projecting what he wants to happen. He wants to get rid of this possum. He wishes that he burned it. He wished that Maurice would, offer some sort of, apology or something to him. And so it could just be a projection. I don't know. I didn't think it was kind of strange.
It's an unusual thing. And I think that's, Rob, when you're talking about Lynchian stuff, I think that's kind of the stuff you may be circling on, because it's non-linear. It's just that it's gestural, and it's all very effectively like foreboding for a viewer, and very like it feels heavy, even if you don't really understand what the nuts and bolts of what's being conveyed. You understand the emotional level, but you don't necessarily understand the, cause and effect. Yeah. And there's a lot of that in this movie for sure, I feel like.
Let me also ask something else. Did they ever draw any kind of connection to the barracks? Or was it just a cool setting for them to visit?
Well, I think Maurice used to work out there.
He said something.
Maybe that's where he did some of his dirty deeds too. And then we see Philip go out there and try and... I think that's where he curb stomps the puppet. I think is at the old barracks. I think he goes out there.
I know we get some animation of the spider crawling out of the barracks. I couldn't remember that Maurice said that he had worked there. So I was like, what is the connection to the barracks? Because otherwise I just thought, oh, that's a cool setting in this small kind of decrepit town for a low budget horror film. But I was like, why is he there?
Yeah. And let me go ahead, Bob.
I was going to say, did you guys want more puppet moving around on its own free will than you got? I feel like I kind of did a little bit. I wanted a little more creepy puppet imagery crawling on the walls and shit.
I think it left me in the perfect spot of wanting more, but I don't know that getting more would make it scarier. Gotcha. It's that, what you don't see sort of thing, Yeah. I don't know that I don't know if you did a whole slew of stop motion that this movie would be better. It would be kind of aesthetically cool, but I don't think showing more of the puppet than they showed makes the puppet scarier.
Yeah. I thought it was a good amount because they also used some good, with the combination of the book and the interesting shots of it being shot in the mirror where you can see the head, or just at a frame when it's in bed with him and he pushes it out of bed. I was thinking to myself, what was that? Because it just happens in a split second. They give you the same shot kind of further away next time you get more of it. But I thought that they actually handled that pretty well. And I was thinking that animation was probably the most expensive thing. And another good reason for introducing the book, because the book is drawn in this charcoal, when they go to the animation of the spider, they're able to kind of make it look maybe a little cheaper because it's mimicking the style of the book. So it doesn't have to look necessarily realistic if it's kind of looking like a charcoal drawing. So I thought that was another kind of smart choice.
I mean, I think I think it's a cool thing, but I don't know that it's as utilitarian as the fact that it's just a puppet. It being a puppet means it doesn't have to look realistic.
Yeah, but we don't know that for 30% of the film. When we start seeing, so we go to the barracks and we start to see some of the animations, and we see some of the animations of it coming out of the bag before we actually see the puppet.
But we were told that it's a puppet, by Maurice and Philip at their first meeting.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah. But we haven't seen it yet, so I guess
we haven't seen it. Yeah, because they're concealing their shots a little bit. But I'm not to diminish, because I do think that there is a strong and intentional correlation between those charcoal drawings and how this thing looks. But I also don't know for sure that it necessarily makes it more acceptable for it to look a certain for realism to leave the door. I think it being a puppet does that job. which is one of those reasons where I'm like, so like it's a puppet. It already kind of has that accomplished. If you just found poetry, would it have the same thing? I don't know. If they had just found the poetry and there hadn't been like these badass charcoal relief drawings, as much as I love them and I think they look awesome and aesthetically, like they're a little Babadooky at this, and at the same time they're a little maybe superfluous. Is the whole thing. I don't want to go back to that conversation though. Like we've already kind of covered that, but I still think that I just still think that, but like just visually, I'm really struck by this film. I will say that this is heavy. Also like the Babadook, very heavy film, top to bottom. There is no fucking levity in this movie at all.
0%. Yeah.
I had a question for y'all. The green balls in the jar up in the cupboard. Do you have any guesses as to what the hell those might be?
I do.
I don't know what they might be, but I know what they signify and why it was disgusting.
I
think that they were the thing that Philip was given post assault to placate him as a child, and now it's like a power move thing for him to offer him those candies now as an adult. You know, like it's like, it was always a power move, really. But like as an adult, he's like, you want some of those? There's really like, you want me to fuck you up again? Like, it's really a threat.
That's exactly what I thought as well.
Yeah, I thought they were just like old school Tide Pods, like washing his mouth.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
Old school Tide Pods.
Retro.
Some of those old world Tide Pods.
I thought it was candy, but the way that's when I started.
He also almost puked when he tasted it. That was the thing that made me go, okay, I think there's something sexual in nature going on here. The taste of this candy, I didn't think it was
also
actually
handed
disgusting.
by the guy's
sooty fingers too.
So I think that's it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that this movie, like the one, I'll say this, like we talk about it being lynching or whatever, and like not necessarily making perfect sense. But I also think that this is a movie that maybe could make perfect sense if you look at it long enough and give it in like a few other passes. Like I think we're making more connections for each other than we made on our own individually, which is good. And which is what like a mark of an interesting movie to me. But a good podcast. A great podcast that you should subscribe, like, and smirch. Really.
And now a word from our sponsors.
Right now,
have you heard of the Straight Chilling podcast?
Chaos reigns, motherfucker.
So anyway, yeah, but the being Lynchian, like that's one thing Lynch wouldn't do is offer a clear pathway to understanding, and I think this movie might have sort of a key code through everything.
That bastard, man. Yeah, that son of a
God
bitch.
Damn.
And some of the to go to the idea of it being Lynchian, I didn't necessarily think that, except the idea of, when we talked about Eraserhead, talking about making a movie that evokes an emotion that's not often put to film. You have romantic comedies and things like that, capturing love and humor and friendship and things like that. But what happens if you want to make a movie that's just to evoke the feeling of dread? Now, this movie, I was frustrated with some of it because it's super slow, and some of the shots are just the guy going back to the same places over and over and over again. Now, that's difficult to watch, but if you are creating this film to evoke the emotions or the experience of a sexual trauma victim, and they are now an adult going back to these places where maybe it happened or maybe other things triggered it, where he went with his parents or where he was abused by his peers or where he was abused by Maurice. We're not exactly sure, but him being there and becoming more unstable and having this feeling of dread makes sense. It's just not fun to watch, and it shouldn't be fun to watch, but it's harder to keep interest. Yes, visually, if you're repeating like that, and I get what you're saying. Like the repetition is part of the point. Like, this is a guy trying to escape a cycle that he can't escape because it's part of him. It's part and parcel of who he is, unfortunately. But
as a viewer watching the same thing play out over and over again, almost entirely exactly the same, it just feels repetitive on some level, like not necessarily in a way that's like making that point, just in a way that makes your mind wander a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does feel...
If that's what you're saying, then I agree.
It does feel like a little bit too repetitive, but I do overall enjoy like the pace of this movie. It's very deliberate, and I feel like the rate that it like doles out information to you is quick enough to keep you entertained and interested in the story and like want to see where it's all going. It's I guess it is kind of redundant, but at the same time, like I don't know that I would want it to be much different than it is. I guess I kind of like the slower pace of it.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree with that. I mean, yeah, I don't know what I would add to that really. I just generally kind of agree.
Yeah, the cast of this movie is like so small. There's like the kid, we got the uncle, the main guy Philip, and we got a couple people at the school. Like there's really just a handful of like tertiary characters that we run into while we're following Philip around. Maurice and Philip are really like
Possum.
Yeah, and Possum. We're really like carrying this movie, and I think they do a fantastic job. I mean, just like the facial expressions of Philip and like the way he sort of like he tucks his like chin into his neck almost, like he just looks like he's sort of like caving into himself and like emotionally just distraught throughout the entire movie. The man's just like gutted. You feel for him. You really do.
I'm not 100% sure, but did he button his button all the way to the top? Was he just trying to cover up his skin or something?
I didn't notice that.
Okay, I'm just trying to think about some things that at the time I thought might be kind of strange in the way he carried himself, but that might make sense after the fact.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I didn't catch that.
But yeah, like this guy, like I think that is actually has something to do with why those repetitive shots are so repetitive, because it's not just like everything about you're spending all of your time with this guy, and he's going to some of the same places over and over again. So I just think it compounds things a little bit. As much as I think it's part of what's trying to be conveyed, I do think that it kind of suffers from a viewer standpoint a little bit. But let's talk about the fox thing. Like, are those foxes even there at all? Do we think any of them?
See, that's why I don't think so. And that's why it's okay for me to accept that he was able to project the burning of Possum, because once we hear, it's almost like a view of how this guy processes trauma. So this other traumatic thing that had nothing to do with Maurice, except that he makes him tell the story over and over again about kids teasing him, and even the idea of this dead fox, he's forced to smell it or something. It's thrown in his face. But then after everybody's gone, it gets up and walks away. Even that idea kind of gives into just the idea that he imagines things happening.
Yeah, that he copes by imagining alternate things.
Yeah.
And like that makes sense to me. Like what I thought of when I heard that, I was like, maybe that's how he learned to puppet, is by fucking convincing himself and maybe even like mimicking the motions of the fox walking away.
That's dark, man.
Because he needed it to be alive. He needed it emotionally.
That is really dark. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a fucking dark thing anyway, but like, I don't know. That occurred to me, and I don't have a lot of evidence for that, but that is one of the things I thought about. And that's one of the things I like about like how fluid some of those things are. I think that we could easily just be like Bob Dick, where it's like, okay, this is largely contained within this one man's mind. But I just think that there's a lot of like just general symbolism in this movie that like similar to like Men, like we talked about last week, where there's a lot of symbolism that is not necessarily in any one character's mind. It just sort of is that kind of film that is using symbolic languages to communicate to the audience, just as from the filmmaking perspective. So I see some of that maybe happening too. So like, who needs reality? Like if you're telling the story and everybody's getting it across, that's the Lynchian thing, is like, it's a conversation between filmmaker and audience, not necessarily between, not necessarily a play being constructed of characters to audience. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. That whole, as he's relaying the story of the fox, like it's just it like illustrates how cruel children can be, and like, you know, they murder this fox and then bully this kid and like cram his face into this like fox corpse. Like, it's such a dark, twisted story. And then on top of that, he's being raised by an abusive uncle. It's like this, I don't know, this dude had a pretty hard life, and like,
well, and his parents died in a fire.
Yeah. Yeah. Considering he turned out to not be like the one that abducted this kid and is like abusing children, as far as we know anyways, like he's doing all right for himself. You know?
Let's also like go to that for a second, because we are told outright by every resource pretty much that he is a disgraced puppeteer, and that he is going, he's like, well, once I destroy the puppet, it'll be fine. They'll take me back. And it's like, take you back where? And what happened? Like, we don't know the specifics of that, which makes it all the more like, it depends on what that is as to whether or not, you know, we believe that he is capable of what we later find out he wasn't doing.
What is
so like, as far as we know, he is abusive, and that's the thing, is like abuse is cyclical. Like, if you are an abused kid, you have a higher likelihood, statistically speaking, of abusing kids later on. So
what if
is that being pointed at?
What if he did imagine all of this? Like, his uncle is dead, and like he goes back to his childhood home and like just imagined all of this, and he is the one that abducted the kid, and then thinks that he like fought his uncle off and sets the kid free.
That's an interesting point. Like, maybe, because honestly, like
that's possible.
Several references to it being his house.
Yeah,
they make it like, you know,
and
the house is in
disrepair.
Disarray.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, and he also, like, I don't know, like there's no, that's a really good call, that you could definitely interpret this movie that way, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, because we never see the police showing up, or
well, there is a scene, a very brief scene, where I believe it's police. It's hard to tell, but somebody's shining a flashlight through the window. I think it's the cops.
Yeah, they're looking for him. That's
true. Oh, I missed that
That's
somehow.
true.
Yeah.
That's interesting, and they don't find anybody. Now, Marisa later says, "Oh, I told him." What did he tell him?
He told him that he was out or something, and so they left.
Yeah.
And that's another thing, actually adding credence to that also, is the fact that Maurice happens to kidnap the same boy that this man was fixated on the train at the very beginning.
In the train, he was as a, what are you drawing?
There is no Maurice.
Damn.
We finally arrived.
Maybe.
Mind blown.
With everything else that we've seen, it would be
it hangs together.
Acceptable. Yeah.
I think that's at least as acceptable as the other interpretations, but it's interesting that none of us got there naturally until we had this round table about it.
That's such a good sign of a good podcast, you know? I mean, when you really
wow. Dude, don't pat yourself on the back too hard. You'll
Dude, this is the kind of guy that sees an accident on the side of the road and is like, oh, I got to get this for the YouTube channel.
Whoa.
Nightcrawler stains. For the YouTube channel.
Oh, I got to get this. People are going to want to see this.
Man.
Well, I'm just saying we're really working hard to bring understanding to this film.
It could also be a sign of a terrible podcast. Maybe that's so obvious to everybody
maybe we're
but
just
us.
Way behind.
That's true.
It took these guys
really
a
got
hour
there,
to
guys.
Get there.
Everybody's listening to us going,
skip to the end.
Right.
Yeah, that could be, because the idea that he worked at the barracks, why else would he go to the barracks? I don't, yeah, possible.
Possible.
man.
Or, that's weird. Maybe.
Yeah. I think we got
Oh
there.
God, can we be done? I'm sad again from talking about this movie. I mean, really made me sad.
I think we did hit all the points. Is there anything else you guys want to mention before we rate it? I mean, we're about there.
No, there's not any scene or points that I think we kind of missed on, except the one scene where the roach is crawling on his face, and I was like, oh no.
Also, I did want to point this, like, was Maurice also a puppeteer? Did he say something to those lines? Like, did he learn his trade?
He was a puppeteer. Yeah.
So he would have used his fingers.
He specifically said it runs in the family,
right?
And then that's when. But you're not my father, Maurice. So I think Maurice was in some way
Maybe
kind of
he sees it. Oh my God. And Maurice is sticking his fingers in him.
Oh, damn.
Ooh,
But also, too, he pulls out that creepy one and he's like, you remember this one, don't you? And I was like, what the
Damn.
Damn, there's some richness to this movie, man. No question.
It's skeeving me out. I don't like it.
Yeah, it's extremely troubling, though.
It's dark.
Every new revelation is not fun.
Oh, God.
Oh no.
When's the first time we see Maurice? It's not when he first gets home, right? And he
It's like
always calls out. He always says, like, Maurice?
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
He's not there right away, but his bag is moved.
Yeah.
From the middle of the ground to the table, the other room. But they don't he leaves again and comes back, and then Maurice is there, I think.
Yeah. Huh.
Anyway, I don't know, man. It might be worth a second watch, this movie, honestly. Like it seems like it could be. Not today.
Right now.
Maybe give it a few months and a few sessions of therapy. But
damn.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and rate this thing out of 5. Juice, why don't you kick us off? How do you feel about Possum?
Possum. This is tough because even through the initial watch, before we're talking about some of these things, I just kept thinking to myself, they're doing a lot with the little, and I couldn't help but respect so many aspects of this film because they go to these creepy locations that are probably super easy or cheap to shoot at. They're just in this small, Scottish or wherever they are town that's just decrepit. And I'm sure there's a ton of places that are like that. This old barracks building, just this old bridge, simple places, but that are effective and they use well. Even that area where he's trying to put the bag in the water and sink it, it just looks so run down and abandoned in a place you just wouldn't want to be or live, but that looks realistic. The tension between him and Maurice, I thought the dialogues are really good. The idea of him forcing him to tell him the story and how disturbing it was, and then how it played into him seeing things later on. The doll the puppet was so creepy, such a good design, and so effective for something that you can practically make for a reasonable amount of money and use so well through creativity and creative shots in the mirror. That was so smart to me. I just couldn't help but admire those kind of things about this film. It is slim, though, even with a lot of shots going back to some of the same places back and forth, and it could help to tell the story as we were talking about. But this movie is like an hour 25. So it's super slim and a bit repetitive at times, and it's no fun to watch. So enjoyment level is very limited. I can really appreciate the art and the craftsmanship and the creativity behind it, but it's not fun to watch. So in that way, it's going to be kind of capped for me. But I do respect a lot about it. And I think a lot of the craft is really admirable. And and for it to be completely off my radar too, I was impressed by that. It's like, I know nothing about this film and it impressed me. So right now, I think I'm going to put it at around a 3.5. I could see it going higher maybe later, but right now it really is kind of bumming me out. And so the overall score has got to be capped a scotch. So I'm going to say 3.5, but really solid, and a lot of respect there for Possum. Robert, how do you feel about Possum out of 5?
I think I'm pretty well on the same page as you. The puppet is absolutely terrifying. It's like the stuff of nightmares. I love the design of it. I did want more of it like lurking in the hallways, but at the same time, some of those shots did look a little bit cheesy. I think it's really just because of the low budget of the movie. They did like the best they could with what they had. So it's sort of a give and take there for sure. The performances were like absolutely phenomenal. these main two actors really carry the movie, and they sell every line like you're right there with them. And there's not a ton of dialogue. A lot of the story and a lot of the emotion is conveyed just by like facial expressions, and Philip just sort of like haunting the hallways of like the barracks and just like out in like the marshes and like these open fields, and it's just like it's dark and dreary, and you just like feel fucking sad. Like you really like are just immersed in like this gloom and doom fucking story start to finish. The house is like half burnt, and that's where he lives, like with this horrifying puppet. It is fucking dark, man. I dig the story though. I think the children's book, although it feels a little bit derivative a la Babadook, it's like cool as hell though. Like the nursery rhymes are eerie as fuck, and the drawings are just like haunting. It's incredibly well made. I like the stuff that influences the movie, and just like the overall tone and aesthetic are just they're just like the filmmaker had like such a clear vision. Like when you put this on, and I think he really nailed what he was trying to go for here. I like that we sort of naturally had this evolution throughout our discussion of like how you can interpret the movie and the different ways you can look at it. I think that's really fucking cool. But yeah, this movie's a total bummer. And like, I don't necessarily want to rewatch it, even though it probably is worth a rewatch. Like, I don't know that I would want to. It's just too fucked up, honestly. I don't want to see that old man's dirty digits going into Philip's mouth again.
The dirty digits.
I think I'm actually like right on the same page with you, Juice. I came into the review thinking I'd probably give this a 3, but throughout our conversation, I think it definitely bumped up to a 3.5. So that's where I'm going to land for Possum. Right.
Before Randy goes, can I mention one more thing I forgot?
Yeah, go for it.
Also, there's some really creative shots before we kind of see the puppet, and maybe afterwards too. For instance, when he puts the bag in the middle of the trees, and the trees kind of look like legs coming out of there. They do that a couple times with a couple different settings.
I like that visually.
Oh, that's creative. Yeah.
But I also don't know what what is that? Like,
I thought it was just a tease of the monster.
Maybe buried a kid there once or something. I don't know.
Oh, maybe.
It's a thought.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe, yeah. Okay.
If we're going with the Maurice is dead theory, then yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Randy, out of 5. Possum.
Well, similar to you guys, I think I'm going to rate this higher than I would have. I think our discussion really helped round out my thoughts about this movie, because there was a lot of lingering threads and a few things that I just outright missed, I think. But I agree that this movie, it's extremely heavy. I would probably watch it again based on the richness of the discussion and the interpretations that we found around it. I would consider watching it again, not anytime soon, but at some point in the future, to try and distill down more of what I think this is trying to convey. I think that this movie has, I'm split as to whether I think this movie is sort of that should be approached with that Lynchian sort of take it for what it is. This is about how you feel watching it, not necessarily about person A goes into setting B and what things like that. I don't think the nuts and bolts really matter unless they're adding to that emotional dread and fear that we feel throughout. I could easily see a lot of people just not digging this movie on the basis of its pacing, of its heaviness, I don't know. I think that a lot of people probably don't even really realize, don't even understand. This guy's clearly abused to us. I think that we probably all clocked that pretty early, but I don't think that necessarily everyone would. A lot of people just need shit told to them, and I can see a lot of people not liking this movie is what I'm trying to get at. But for me, it allows me enough wiggle room to sort of decipher and ponder. It gives a lot of ambiguity where it's beneficial for me to be able to, look at it this way or that way and through different lenses. And it's prescriptive enough to where there's a firm structure to build those sort of readings on. It's not absolutely random all the time. I would say that some of the shots, like you said, were repetitive and seemed random because they were so repetitive, and because they would just would be flashes on the screen sometimes. I think this movie could have benefited from maybe just one more set piece, even, or even like a scene or two of him being fired or something like that. I don't know, like just either more background or just, I don't know. There's a lot of places they could have built something new in, and they just didn't. And you can kind of feel it as you watch it throughout. It's not just that it's slow and methodical. It's also a little repetitive. So that's my probably biggest ding on it. I don't know. I don't know that I have a whole lot that we haven't said left to say. So I think I'm just going to cut myself off there. I'm going to say that this is a 4.25. That's where I'm landing. I was going to give it a 3.5, but we talked ourselves up pretty well here, I think. So,
man, what a great podcast.
We are just the best.
Straight killing it. So
I'm sure Diego really loved this discussion.
This real circle jerk of
here's hoping.
Fucking amateur assholes shitting back and forth forever.
Shitting back and forth forever into each other's booty holes.
Yeah.
How long until we're not amateur anymore?
Right.
I don't know.
How many decades do we have to do?
I'd rather just stay amateur. There's less pressure that way.
We're going pro. With Randu's 4 1/4, that's going to put our aggregate at a 3.75. Let's jump into our Rotten Tomatoes segment, see what the critics and users think about Possum.
Certified fresh. Dead.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Rotten Tomatoes segment in which I'm going to ask these gentlemen if they can guess with the best of their abilities what the critics and user aggregate scores are on RottenTomatoes.com. Now, that's aggregate of percentage of positive reviews. Okay, motherfuckers, it's time to guess with the best of our abilities what the aggregate score is. I'm going to start with Juice. Juice, what do you think that the critics specifically had to say about this movie? Oh, I'm sorry. There are 41 critic reviews.
41. Okay. Ooh, that's pretty slim. So I'm wondering who's reviewing this. Maybe locals. I don't know. Festival goers, if it was around there. So I think in that vein, it will probably lean more positive. So I'll go kind of around where we are and say 75.
75. Bob, how about you?
That is exactly what I was thinking. I'm going to go up or down. This critics, I feel like critics would be pretty positive about this, I think. So I'm going to $1 up with a 76.
1776, baby. Okay. Bob. Well done. You have taken it this time around. It is a 90% positive.
Whoa!
Certified fresh.
That is quite high. Whoa.
It is a high.
Can I get a hellskeet?
A hellskeet?
All right.
Can you dig it?
All right. Well, let's go to the other end of the world here and talk to the 250 plus audience members who reviewed on Rotten Tomatoes. 250 plus. That's also low.
Yeah.
We'll start with Bob this time around. Bob, where do you think those audience members fall on the spectrum?
I gotta think it's lower than the critics. 90 is just so high. This is not a crowd-pleasing film by any means. I think you definitely have to be like ready for a movie this heavy. So I'm gonna go like with relatively low, like a 55.
55. Damn. All right. So, Ju, how about you?
Yeah, that's pretty low, and that's probably a pretty good guess, but I'm going to take the high end, and I'll say since it's so low, maybe people who just like this film are kind of coming out for it. So I'll say 60.
60. All right. Well, Bob, well done again. It's a 52%.
Nice.
52.
Did I
90?
get
52.
a hell skeet sweep?
Sweet!
That never happens, ever.
It's been a while. I've had a bit of a dry spell.
Yeah.
Time to get
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Chief, take him away. I'm going to go home and sleep with my wife.
Oh, yeah. Hell skeet, motherfucker.
All right, Bob.
Yeah, so
Congratulations.
52%. Here's what the critics' consensus says. Unsettling and absorbing in equal measure, Possum presents a dark character study rich with rewards for fans of chilling genre fare. Okay, sure.
Straight chilling genre fare?
Straight chilling.
I see.
Yes. So let's go ahead down and we're going to read some negative reviews just for the funsies. And I've discovered that, man, we've been plugging away at the wrong well here. We should have been going to the negative reviews from the users because those fools say some wild shit. Here's one person who wrote, this is a 5-star review. I didn't see one bit of horror in this film they call a spider possum for the whole movie. That's HOLE movie.
Oh my God.
While the main character stands awkwardly.
Oh my God, I love that. I want that on a shirt.
No, that's a spider.
That's for the whole movie.
That ain't no old possum over there. That's a spider. Don't he know?
You want me to read another negative one? Here it is. 5-star. There's like seven ellipses back to back, and then it says, "That's not a possum, that's a spider."
Oh, I love it.
Bob, you see this over here?
I think this movie might have lost like 7 percentage points on the back of it not being a possum.
That is fantastic.
That's what the fuck?
That's not no possum. I've seen a possum and I've seen a spider.
They won't say this spider's a possum. You believe that?
And they say a computer can do my job, but it not can damn do it.
Quite ironic.
So that's our Rotten
That's why they hate the movie. It's just not a possum. I was promised
literally the only line in this review.
Where's my possum?
Also, the spider legs are on the poster, so there's no way that you would watch this film and not know that that's coming.
A lot of people say it's boring though too.
Oh my God,
which we kind of called.
That shit's ridiculous. It really is.
For the whole movie, they called the spider possum. Why they call spider possum?
Can we make shirts that just say like spider don't = possum?
I mean, yeah, that's one that I think you guys could put together pretty easily.
No, it's got to be expertly designed by Randu.
Sorry, guys, I don't know how to make that glyph. I'm sorry, I don't know how to.
Wow. Randy, thank you for the Rotten Maters segment. I do have some trivia. Let's go ahead and jump over into it.
It's totally time for trivia.
Hey, can I lead with something?
Yeah, go for it.
That I discovered by reading some of these negative reviews, or actually, this was a positive review.
Yeah,
revealed to me that this Matthew Holness that directed this film is the same Matthew Holness that is the star and I think lead actor in a series that I have talked about several times on this podcast called Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, which is a comedic action horror pastiche of it's like MacGyver meets Twilight Zone thing that it's tough to describe, but it's extremely funny and silly. And it's very strange that this guy who is absolutely he's listed as a comedian, and that makes sense to me. This is like his number 2 thing on his IMDb is Possum. Number 1 is Garth Marenghi's Dark Place.
He's the main character, Philip.
No, he's the writer of this movie.
Oh, the writer,
and director.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I thought, and director, I think too, right? Yeah. Okay, it just says writer under this, but yes.
Okay, that's interesting.
That was just so that's why I was gasping over here because I knew. Now that means more to you than it does to me, right? Jim?
Oh yeah, that's.
Oh, okay. I'm glad that you won that.
That's very meaningful.
Oh God, yes, come with me.
I have some other trivia. So the movie Possum is an adaptation of Holness's short story by the same name. It was published in a horror anthology book that's called The New Uncanny Tales of Unease. And it was partially inspired by the theories of the uncanny by Sigmund Freud. The short story that he wrote centered on a character that was unable to verbally and emotionally express himself due to childhood trauma, choosing instead to do so by creating a horrific puppet. According to Holness, the publishers had all of the writers of the short stories read Freud's theory of the uncanny. They then told the writers to choose a fear that intrigued them and write a story in modern language. Holness ended up choosing a fear of both doppelgangers and ventriloquist dummies, and he based his short story off of those two fears.
Oh, all right.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
The doppelganger
An interesting
thing
approach.
is super interesting. Like maybe like the puppet was seen as his doppelganger.
Yeah, that's what I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like throughout the movie, they make so many, like, apart from it, like physically the face is like molded after the guy's face.
Yeah.
But like, aside from that, the way the guy holds his body is similar.
Yeah.
The way, I don't know, there's a lot of like visual service paid to that end.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of the visual style here, the movie was inspired by public information films that Holness saw in his youth. Some of the other inspirations include Dead of Night from 1945, George Romero's Martin from 1978, and various German expressionist films such as Nosferatu.
There you go. Good call on the German expressionism.
What else do I got here? So speaking of Romero's Martin, the role of Philip was originally written with the intention of having John Amplis, who had starred in Romero's Martin as the lead, Martin. The role instead went to Sean Harris, who had responded very strongly to the idea of starring in the film after reading the script. So that would have been really fucking interesting, actually.
Huh. All right.
I mean, Sean Harris did a great fucking job, though. So I don't know that I'd really want to see anybody else do it, but I think that's cool that he was so inspired by Martin that he wrote the part for the same actor. The idea behind the creation of the puppet came from Holness's own fear of spiders, while clarifying that in the original short story, the possum was made by Philip, constructed out of pieces of roadkill and dead animals.
Oh, God.
With the intention to reference Frankenstein's monster. But they didn't want to do that in the movie because I guess it would just be like too fucked up, I guess.
Or not practical?
That too, yeah.
That's fucked up.
Yeah, that's real.
I don't know how to respond to that.
Than the movie already is. It just would have been.
Yeah. Damn, Garth Marenghi. Chill the fuck out.
Chill the fuck out, yo. The Stiff Key Marshes was one of the locations where the crew had filmed this movie. It was also a location where the fabled Black Shuck was purported to haunt. So in English folklore, the Black Shuck, also known as Old Shuck, Old Shock, or simply just Shuck, is the name given to a ghostly black dog, which is said to roam the coastline and countryside of East Anglia, one of many such black dogs recorded in folklore across the British Isles. I think that's fucking cool. Never heard of that. Are you guys familiar with that?
Yeah, no, definitely not.
No, that's news to me.
That's very, very Anglo.
Black Shuck. Yeah. So that's pretty much all of the trivia I have for Possum. Let's go ahead and jump into our Cooter of the week.
Straight chillin'. Cooter of the week.
Juicy J, what's a Cooter and why do we hunt them?
Cooter is a character type and a straight chillin' exclusive. Cooter must hit 3 of these 5 points to be considered a Cooter, and we want the Cooter with the most points. The 5 points of Cooterdom are sexual deviance, manipulation, smug arrogance, overall looking attire, and overall patheticness. Boys, I think we got an easy win this week. There's like 2 characters to choose from.
Maybe one.
Well, yeah, maybe one. So let's just go with what we see just strictly on film and say Maurice to kick it off.
I mean,
that's pretty clear.
Yeah, Maurice, sexual deviance, checkaroony.
Skyrocket.
Yeah.
Skyrocket to the moon with that fucking
to the
point.
moon, abusing children's. Not cool.
Not
cool.
Not good. Yeah, like not cool. It seems like the most placid fucking condemnation I've ever. Not cool, man. We used to be cool.
It's a no.
That's not
for
cool,
me,
Maurice.
Maurice, come on, man. You make a good. You make good fox stew and shit. But come on, man, that's not cool.
Stew.
I forgot about that. So I was like, yeah, damn, what the fuck? So yes, a smug arrogance. I would say yes.
For sure.
He twists the knife in this poor fucker many times.
Oh my God, yeah.
Which is also very manipulative.
He is so manipulative.
Oh, that is part and parcel to his particular deviance is to manipulate this young child and now adult.
Yeah. And the candy ball thing.
Oh God.
Yeah. That's smug as
very
fuck. To even mention that is both manipulative and smug. Those are all very tied together. Looking at Tyre, this man looks like shit.
He hasn't showered in 3 decades. His glasses are broken. Brush your fucking teeth, bro. Goddamn.
You know, poverty's one thing, but man, this dude's with his sooty fingers sticking it in motherfuckers' mouths. Fuck you.
And then patheticness. He lives in absolute squalor.
Yeah, I think that he's pretty pathetic because this is the only way he gets power in his life is to exert it on a young child.
Yeah, I mean that's
this adult.
I mean, he's got him. All 5.
I think he hits all 5.
He's a 5-star Cooter. I am perfectly happy to book his ass. But I think there is something to be said.
Now, should we talk about Philip as if he were imagining everything all along? Should we also explore that possibility?
Do that. Sure, let's do that. Everything all along. Then everything that it can be applied to Maurice applies to him in that case.
Pretty much.
Yeah. A little differently because maybe he has less smeg. Maybe he doesn't have the smug arrogance.
He's got no smegma.
Well, okay, maybe a little less on the smug arrogance and more on the patheticness at that.
Yeah, I would say it that. Yeah,
the counterbalance. But I would also say that if he is not, if we take Maurice as a real guy who's really doing this shit, and we take Philip as a victim. He is still, as apparently, doing something perverse involving children, as far as we know. We're told that outright. So automatically, sexual deviance is on the table. We just don't know the details of that.
True.
And we're also led to sympathize with him a little bit because he is a victim himself, very obviously. Manipulation, I don't see any reason to point that at him unless it's if we're assuming manipulating that he
himself.
Yeah.
He's manipulating a puppet that is also manipulating him back, I guess. But that's the thing is puppets?
Puppet?
Hello, puppet.
I don't know. Manipulation, I think, is a stretch. He doesn't really manipulate anything outside of himself. And I don't think he's manipulating himself even. I think it's just psychosis of some kind, some sort of, trauma by way of some sort of exertion of trauma on himself.
Bob liked that. Bob behind the scenes.
It tickled me.
Smug arrogance. I don't see that in him. Looking at Tyre. Okay, I'll give him this because the man looks like a dead squid walking around half the time. He looks like a jellyfish man.
Calamari ass.
Yeah.
God damn.
So and also he's made the puppet and him are made to look alike. So I mean that's pretty.
Yeah, you look like a puppet
look.
dog. You look like
a Spider-Man puppet.
Look like a
puppet. This is the best Spider-Man movie I've ever seen. I'll give him that.
Spider-Man Part 4.
Spider-Man come out to play.
Spider-Man Part 4. Oh, Possum.
It's just,
dude, multiverse Spider-Man could have gotten a lot weirder. That's all I'm saying.
It's just all dangly and fucked up.
Just fucking what's this Spider-Man's name? Possum.
Dude, imagine being a criminal and that Spider-Man coming after you.
I renounce the life of crime. Put me in jail forever. Just get that away from me.
You win. Oh God. Not another green ball.
Patheticness is through the roof for this man. I mean, trauma aside, if that trauma turns to something caustic for a kid, that's pathetic as fuck. And he is very easily manipulated by Maurice. So I think he's got a claim to Cooterdom. But I think Maurice, man,
yeah, that's got to be.
It's either Maurice or Maurice by way of Philip's
psyche
delusions. So I think we say Maurice.
Book him, boys. Let's book him.
We got him booked. Maurice, lock him up.
Some
Gentlemen.
people call me Maurice. Wow. Possum. Some people call me Possum.
Some people call me Puppet.
Some people call me Spider-Man.
They call me the Possum Man, and I just float around.
I'm a Spider-Man.
all limp
I'm a
like.
possum.
Let's talk about what we've been watching this week.
Hey gang, what you been watching?
Randu, what you been watching?
Ooh, a few things of interest. Rewatched Jurassic Park, the OG. Bob, I hear you have some thoughts about the new Jurassic Park, which we will get to, I'm sure.
We'll get to
shortly. I started playing a game that I've long wanted to play, but came out on Switch recently called The Stanley Parable. And I know that I'm late to the party, but it's very humorous and fun and interesting. Good game. Very good game. I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but it's not like, it's not an action game at all. It's one of those thinky experiential games or whatever. And basically it's tough to describe, but there's a narrator describing you, Stanley, trying to find why all your coworkers are missing. And you're wandering through this abandoned complex where you work and have worked all of your life. And it's very, I don't know, poetic, I guess, in parts. And it's also very silly and funny at other parts. I don't want to give anything away. It's like a branching paths, choose your own adventure type of approach a game.
Nice.
Yes. Also, it's been a bit of a week of Mormon for me. We here in DC have a large Mormon temple, which is being reconsecrated. And as such, before they do that, they're allowing the public to do brief tours. Becky and I went on one of those tours and we saw this temple from the inside out, which is interesting because it's not usually, if you're not part of the church, you don't get to go into the temples at all.
Oh, okay.
So it was interesting. It was fun. And, everybody's real sweet. It was a little weird because they make you wear booties to go in, I guess, because it's consecrated ground in some way. And they have children putting booties on your feet as you walk in and walk out. And it's a little weird. But other than that, it was fine. It was a very beautiful place. I just felt really weird about that. And then on the other end of the spectrum, Becky and I have also been watching on recommendation to us some true crime and true crime. This is on Netflix. There's a show called Keep Sweet, Pray and Obey about the fundamentalist Latter-day Saints, which is, I want to make the distinction from like what we generally call Latter-day Saints. These are the ones that are the polygamists. These are the extremists. And buddy, it gets pretty fucking extreme. Child brides. At least it was. I don't know what the current state of the church is, but at least at one point, for this majority of the story, it's about like more or less religious-based human trafficking. It's very fucked up. I recommend it though. It's incredibly enlightening to hear about some of the shit that I had no idea was happening and somehow people got away with for some time. And then also for rounding out my week of Mormon, been watching started watching a show with Andrew Garfield in the lead called Under the Banner of Heaven, which I recognize as being a John Krakauer book, the guy who wrote Into the Wild, which I grew up loving. But I didn't know that it's a true crime book. He's a journalist who wrote these books, so it's nonfiction, and they've adapted it to a fictionalized drama on, I believe, Hulu. And it's by this Under the Banner of Heaven is the name of it. So far, it's about a murder within the Mormon church of some kind. I think like the guy's wife and kids are murdered. He's being questioned about it. He was a member of the church, and so is Andrew Garfield's detective character. And that's like more or less the groundwork that I have laid for myself so far. And it just gets into the nuts and bolts of the politics of the situation. And some of it is obviously fictionalized from and some of it breaks from reality for poetic license, but so far so good. Only one episode down. And then let's see, continuing that other true crime documentary about a cult leader, Teal Swan, called The Deep End. And in the most recent episode, she essentially drowns a lady almost to death in order to get her to not question her authority. It's pretty fucked up.
Damn.
Yeah. And then last but not least, certainly not least, Inside, the Bo Burnham special that came out a year ago, which I greatly loved, had recently Bo released what he calls the Inside Outtakes on YouTube for free, which is more or less an hour-long special of outtakes and cut content and I'd hesitate to say that it's a full other movie. It's not as coherent as Inside was, but I would compare it to like the Jackass 0.5 style of thing, where it's almost like its own thing, and not just outtakes. So it's not just like, oh man, I fucked up. It's not that. It's not a blooper reel. It's still very, very good. And there's some cut songs and stuff in there too that are pretty worth checking out if you like the special itself. Okay, that's it. I tried to speed through that.
That's a lot of shit. A lot of watching. Mm-hmm. Juice, what about you?
Ooh, I am also watching the Keep Sweet, Pray and Obey, like Randu. And that is some really fucked up shit. What's kind of even more fucked up to me is it was happening like 2004 in Utah. Yeah. I will say, though, the shots of Utah, amazing. I'm like, God damn, I need to go hang out in Utah.
State, man.
Yeah, it looks amazing. But these people, so fucked. Oh my God. Just talking about cult levels through the roof. But I mean, they would have, they had the polygamy, but it was illegal. And they got to a point where they would just take people's families away and be like, nope, you're his daughter now. You're his wife now. Just move them to another family.
And talking like 60 wives, not talking minimum 3 to get into heaven.
That's
minimum 3.
That's where it was cracking me up too, because it starts with the kind of the father or whatever. And he's got a lot of wives too, but one of them, okay, so it starts fucked up. It starts with like this 19-year-old girl marrying this 85-year-old man who already has like 20 wives. Then, okay, after that guy dies, after he told everybody that he wasn't going to die, there's no way he could die, and his son takes over, then people start, it was cracking me up about the comments about people like, he's marrying his own moms. That seemed kind of strange to me. And I was like, you motherfucker, that seems strange to you? That's the line you're going to draw of him marrying his own moms? But that shit, that shit was just not. But it was cracking me out how people were talking about like the good old days before Warren took over. And I was like, no,
man.
No, but it did somehow get worse, which is
had to get worse before people could recognize it from within. And that's what's terrifying is like those boiling frogs might have just continued right on boiling, kept right on boiling without ever reckoning with it. And
dude, those motherfuckers,
at least some reckoning.
We good? Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. I was going to say those motherfuckers got greedy, too, because they had that whole system set up. And then it just became about having everybody given 20 wives. So they're kicking like all the boys out. They're like, well, we got to give all these old men all the women. Like ridiculous.
They're throwing 13-year-old boys on the streets. So they were just not like women to go around.
They're just like, get out of here. It's nuts. Fucking nuts, dude. Cults are
fucking
wild. 2004, that shit was happening.
I was blown away by how recent that happened. That's crazy. Dude.
One of the big ploys was, oh my God, when the Olympics come to Salt Lake City, it's going to be Armageddon. So we got to move out to the middle of nowhere.
And our little creek that we live in is going to lift up while the rest of the world burns to death. Fucking Avengers 2.
They thought that shit was going to rise up into the sky. But I feel bad for those people because those kids literally had no idea. They were growing up and
kids that did not know how babies were made.
They thought
at 25 were forced to marry an old man.
Yeah. Okay, what if this land started flying, dog? I mean, they just...
Okay. Hopefully you're on it.
We spent
anyways, yeah. We'll probably do a mini cast or something on it. But anyways, that shit's really, really fucked up. It's new on Netflix. I also restarted watching Loki again. There's a new Marvel show out, but I want to check out Loki again real quick because now they're getting into some new territory where they're like new characters that we haven't seen before. And I'm losing interest a little bit, but Loki's still really, really good. Other than that, just same old stuff, Bob's Burgers and just regular little Netflix things. But yeah, that's it. Bob, what you been watching?
I know what Bob's been watching.
I don't know what that is.
Unintelligible. Yeah, I don't know what that was.
Oh, no. That's a shame.
I did watch David Cronenberg's Crash for the first time, which is the horniest film I have ever seen in my life.
Bob, half star for the Yabos.
Dude, the whole movie is a giant yabo. I didn't realize this was rated NC-17.
What does that mean?
It's just like it's a softcore porn. It's just like sex scene after sex scene. So what the movie's actually about is about this group of people. This sort of they find cars, they find car wrecks, and they find the injuries people sustain during car wrecks, all to be like very erotic. So it's like this like underground like subculture of people that like
they call it Titane World.
Titane was definitely influenced by this. They one of the guys like will reenact famous car wrecks, like car accidents where like celebrities died. Like he'll get the car that they were in and like reenact it, and he won't wear like pads or like a seatbelt. Like he'll just fucking do it, and like he'll get fucked up. But like they get the people that are watching like get off on it. It's like really
That's what the movie's about. The Cronenberg movie.
Yeah, and they like get turned on like touching and riding in cars. They like bang in cars like after like one of the main character of the movie towards the beginning of the movie gets in a horrific car accident. His car's totaled and he like goes to the lot where his like totaled car is just like thrown out in, and he just like bangs in it. Like the group of people like have all they all have like scars, or they have to wear like leg braces or like neck braces or whatever, and it's just all like very sexually arousing to them. It's bizarre. So there's just a lot of banging and a lot of car accidents. Crash. There you go.
Wait, what else do you want out of a movie, Bob? Damn. Sounds like you got the whole package.
The whole package. That is a Criterion disc, so you can pick that up. I also I checked out a movie called The House is October Built. I asked the Slack channel if like it was worth watching. I kind of just wanted to watch something like Halloween season, even though it's like not even, it's fucking June. Everybody on Slack was like, yeah, it's worth checking out. So I did. Basically is about this group of people that try to make a documentary about like haunted houses. They get in an RV, they drive around the country, and they go through all these different haunts and interview the workers there. And then there's a couple, like 2-3 people that they run into early on that they just kind of keep seeing pop up over and over again. One of them's a clown, and it turns out these people are being stalked, and like crazy shit happens. And found footage kind of movie. Definitely has some solid creepy moments. They roll through New Orleans, and they go down Bourbon Street during one sequence, and it's like Halloween in New Orleans, and it's overall like a pretty dope movie. Actually, it's a solid found footage movie. It's effective, and it's like it's a nice light breezy kind of watch for the most part. But I mean, it's I enjoyed the hell out of it, honestly. It's probably one that I'll revisit come spooky season. I've also heard the sequels are dog shit, so I'm not going to watch those.
Okay.
But I enjoyed that.
Well.
I also, as was previously mentioned, I checked out Jurassic World Dominion, rather.
Oh, my Lord.
So this is...
Jurassic World Park Dome, whatever.
I guess this is the last movie in the Chris Pratt trilogy of Jurassic World films or whatever.
Oh God, when does the Harry Styles trilogy start?
Yeah, hold on to your butts. This movie also sort of brings back the original characters. So you get like Grant and Ian Malcolm and Ellie. They all come back. Sattler, yeah, Ellie Sattler, and it's about this like evil corporation called Biosyn, and they genetically enhance these locusts, and they're desecrating the crops throughout the country, and they're specifically not going after Biosyn crops. So it's going to make everybody have to buy their food from Biosyn because they're a big evil corporation. And Ellie Sattler is trying to figure out what's going on with these locusts and how to stop them and stuff, and she gets Grant to go along with her. And Malcolm works for the company, but he's like on the up and up, and he knows that they're evil, and he's like trying to get the inside scoop and help them out and like bring the man down,
God.
And
This sounds terrible.
all the while,
So you can genetically engineer locusts, and you're worried about selling crops?
yeah, right. Also, if you've seen the second installment, which I don't even remember the name of it, they clone a girl, and the girl escapes, and the company's trying to chase the girl down, and she's like staying with Chris Pratt out in a cabin in the middle of nowhere. And there's just dinosaurs all over the planet now. They're just literally everywhere. So like Chris Pratt's like literally like riding a horse and trying to like rope dinosaurs. And he like rides a motorcycle, and he's like being chased by velociraptors. And there's like, I don't know, there's just dinosaurs everywhere. But the dinosaurs don't even like really, they don't matter. They like barely matter in this movie.
I'm surprised it's not riding a velociraptor. Also, you can clone people.
Yeah.
And you're worried about selling crops.
Dude, I don't understand how like there's just raptors roaming the streets, but there's still just companies out here. It's, What?
Yeah, you have to like
that sounds like post-apocalyptic.
Yeah, you got to like cohabitate with dinosaurs, and like that's kind of how the movie starts off. But after the first 5 minutes, they're just like, "Fuck it, locusts," and you're like, "Well, this is about dinosaurs." I thought I kind of want to know about how people are trying to live with dinosaurs, but you don't get fucking any of that. It's about a clone child, and about locusts, and about seeing the old squad get back together, and they bring back Dodgson, and I don't know why. The guy playing Dodgson is like, it's not a good actor, man. It's just not a good actor. This is like definitely nostalgia baity. And then like nobody cares about Chris Pratt's character. Like, do they? Like, what is he doing? Like, it doesn't matter. I don't know. I hate to be like that get off my lawn motherfucker. Like, I really don't like doing it, but like this movie is complete trash, and it's going to make $1 billion. It just will. So I'm sure they're going to make another one, and it's going to be bad.
Well, I was thinking about seeing it in the theaters, and now I will not, Bob. So it will not get my money.
Don't do it. Yep. Yeah. The only reason that I just went out this weekend to see it, we have like a pass at the theater. So like we can just go see whatever, whenever. And it didn't really cost me anything. The sweet little baby behind the concession stand, she gave us a free pitcher of beer. I don't know why. She took pity upon us and was like, "Here, I know you're about to waste 2.5 hours of your life. Here's some free beer.
You're gonna need this.
You're really gonna need this.
Trust me,
dude.
You want this?
They bring back the can of Barbasol. They bring it back.
Oh,
no, they don't. Shut the fuck up.
I swear.
I literally watched this movie.
It got buried.
Jurassic Park.
It did
the other night, and I was like, they're showing a lot of special care to this Barbasol can going under the mud. I'll bet they could bring this back in a later movie, and it'll be terrible.
Well, they
fucking did.
Jesus
Christ.
Like, it's the same can, and it is because it's dirty. And Dodgson has it kept on this like really nice shelf in his office. And towards the end of the movie, when shit's going south, he grabs it and throws it in his bag. And that's the first time you see it, you're like, oh, of course, the fucking Barbasol. Well, yeah, duh. And so like he's trying to escape on this like monorail that's underground. It's like I don't know. It's just a fucking monorail. It doesn't work out. And like chaos does reign. He's trying to escape, and the dinosaurs are about to eat him, and then he drops the can again, and that's it. The can does nothing. You see him pick it up, and you see him drop it.
Why does the can matter?
He's a traveling can.
Because
who cares if the can falls?
You need to nostalgia bait to it. That's why it's there.
But it can't have anything in it.
I don't know.
Yeah, that shit is dead. They're no use to us dead, said Dodgson. Jurassic Park, 1993.
They're running around the world.
They're just around everywhere. Yeah.
Even if it mattered, it doesn't matter.
So why, how, and why did he get that? And why is it?
God.
Oh man,
maybe Dodgson just kept his weed stash in it.
Dude, that's what I used to do. I had that Barbasol can.
I know.
That's where I
Dude, I remember
that was the stash.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So much on some grinding.
I'll stop bitching about it, but that movie is hot, nasty garbage.
I'll take your bitch session.
This next generation, they're really fucking up culture, aren't they?
Dude,
they're fucking up this high culture called Jurassic Park.
I just hope the kids that are watching this new trilogy also at least watch the original. It's worth it.
Dude, that second one, we were getting into a debate on the Slack, but that second one's still pretty solid.
I like the second Lost World. Yeah, I like it. It's kind of it's kind of dumb, but like it's fun at least, and there's like some actual
minus
tension.
the ending. The ending gets a little wonky, but
there's some
like
gymnastics in that movie, right?
And it's got what's his name from Old School? Vince Vaughn is in that show.
Yeah,
I was like, Will Ferrell's in Lost World.
My boy Blue is in that.
My boy Blue.
Yeah, well, that's all I've been watching. I bitched enough. Let's go ahead and get into our final segment of the show, our Hotline Screams.
Hotline Scream.
If you are listening and would like to call in and leave a voicemail to be featured on next week's show, hit us up at 904-638-3231. We have 4 voicemails this week, and we got 2 first-time callers, and this is kind of cracking me up, actually. As I'm looking at their names, I jotted them down. We got like the fucking 7 dwarves calling in and leaving voicemails this week. We're going to hear from Pappy, Grubby, Tom, and the librarian. That's what we got coming up.
Okay.
So
it's fucking CB handles, I guess.
I know. Candy Cane's calling in next week. First up, let's hear from first-time caller Pappy.
Hey, this is Pappy in Dallas. I just listened to a review of Men. I wanted to kind of comment and ask a question. Firstly, I loved it, even though I think that it's sort of a film that's sort of made for kind of film nerds and film school types. It's probably one that, film people will discuss in film classes ad nauseum. But one thing I wanted to bring up is that one of you had said that you sort of interpret the movie as an allegorical dream. To me, that's interesting because it raises a question about the very end of the movie, which I guess you guys didn't really talk about. The very, very end. The friend shows up in the morning. And when the friend shows up, presumably the friend is real, right? And the friend is real life. And when she walks around, before she comes to Harper, she sees the front door open and she sees blood on the ground. So if it's an allegorical dream, then what about the blood in the house? So I'd love to hear what you guys think of that. I mean, do you guys think then that some of these events did happen? Or maybe there was someone that she did potentially kill or injure, and the rest of it's still in her head? I think that's very interesting. And then I also wanted to bring up, this maybe is less interesting, but, we only find out until the very end of the movie that her friend is pregnant, which I sort of interpret to mean that the sort of cycle of toxic masculinity is still continuing even to this day and even to future generations. Because, nowhere else in the movie do we even get any hint that she's pregnant. And I think showing her being pregnant is very deliberate. But mainly I wanted to call because I wanted to hear what your take was on the friend seeing the blood in the house, and how that ties into the theory that this was all some sort of dream that happened. Look forward to hearing what you guys have to say. Keep up the good work. Thanks. Bye.
So,
Juice, was that you or me? Or
I was trying to think about it. The only thing I remember specifically was asking if we thought it could be some sort of purgatory and had she killed herself. So I do remember asking that because we do see a scene of her drowning in a bathtub. Now that could be the question I posited. Like, is this a dream because is she in some sort of purgatory? Because she asks, like, what are you? She specifically seems to address it as if it's some sort of demon or not. So, and she doesn't recognize that this person is the same person. So that could be what he's talking about, or maybe we did and I just forgot. So
to me, like, I think that it still holds plenty of water myself, because like you think, you have that friend show up, and she sees her friend in that situation or whatever. And you, like, in normal movie logic, you would say, oh, okay, so the outsider is here and now we're back to true reality. We're not inside this woman's particular brain space anymore. We now have a secondary point of view that we can trust. But I don't think that's necessarily true. I think like that woman is also a fictional character. I think that the allegory, I think this is a movie built around an allegory, not around a plot. So either way, I think that she is just part of that allegory. You know, her showing up there, being pregnant, like he says, like maybe that is part of the allegory at play, like he's pointing out. And, you know, I don't think that it's meant to be like a snap to reality. I think reality is not involved with this movie.
I kind of agree with you, Randy. My initial reaction to his question was like to ponder at length whether or not this actually happened or not is to sort of miss the point of the movie. I think the point of the movie is the metaphor. That's really like why you watch it. That's what the filmmaker's after. Like whether or not this happened like in reality is like almost secondary. Like I really don't think it's that important.
Not to invoke the horrible Max Landis, but there was a video he put out where he was talking about like, I think a conversation he had with his father, John Landis, about, I forget how this goes exactly, but the story is something along the lines of his dad asked him, well, how do you kill a vampire? And Max like, oh, well, you silver bullets or a stake in the heart or he's like, no, you don't kill a vampire that way because vampires aren't fucking real. These are all fictional things. You can say and do whatever you want. And as long as it serves the purpose of your piece of art, then it's fine. It is what it is. I think that's the operating level that we have on men.
Yeah, I think to even stress that if we are going to what like Pappy's argument of saying like, well, how would you argue that this isn't real because there's a trail of blood and the friend ends up? And then I would posit the question, well, if you say that this is all strictly real and it happens just as we see it and this is all really, really happening to this woman, then why can't she, if she's just a regular person, why can't she recognize that literally everybody in this town has the same face? So I think that goes not to say like checkmate or anything, Pappy, but it just goes to show you that Alex Garland isn't necessarily, when making this film, isn't necessarily, I think, worried about telling a straight tale. It's more about a point, which was part of our criticism of, you know, the plot suffers because it's more about a point. And in order to get to that point, you have to introduce these type of elements, which don't really line up in a straightforward plot. So, right. I mean, that's how I would take that. It's a fair point.
But if you are trying to interpret it as in a narrative sense, then that's a fair point. And I think that's a discussion to be had. To me, it's just sort of like secondary.
And we really didn't talk about the ending because honestly, I don't really know I personally don't really know what kind of effect it has on the movie or the overall story. Nothing really happens. She shows up.
I think it just gives somebody had to show up and find her in that state. And we have this friend that exists basically for that purpose, because otherwise it's just going to be another Mang, right? Like, or I guess that female police officer maybe, but she was only in it for like a second.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good questions, Pappy. Thanks for calling in, man. First time caller. We love hearing from first time callers, for sure.
Yeah. Thanks, Pappy.
Question our bullshit. We love it. We love to hear it. Next up, we're going to hear from Grubby, another first time caller. Let's see what he has to say.
Hey guys, this is Grubby here, a first time caller. Listened to your show for a long time. I'm answering about the question of my favorite horror movie of this year so far. I'd probably have to go with The Black Phone. Like you guys, I was at the Overlook Film Festival. Something else that I got a chance to see I really enjoyed was Sissy. So if you guys didn't see that, I would put that down as well. And with same thing with Deadstream, both very good movies. And if I want to, what I'm excited for the rest of the year, I already saw it, but maybe for somebody else, I would recommend Bodies, 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 the new A24 horror comedy slasher. And then obviously I'm excited for the new Jordan Peele Nope. But other than that, keep doing what you're doing, man. Look forward to hearing more from you guys. Thanks.
I'm sorry. All I heard in that whole thing was, hold on. I could have lived out my fantasy of having somebody recognize me from my podcast and come up and say hello.
Your
and
fantasy.
They didn't. Grubby.
Fantasy.
That's how I know that like we're not speaking into a void, buddy. You got to come and say hi.
Do my ears deceive me?
You're Randu, aren't you?
I need validation, Grubby. No, thank you. Thank you for calling, man. And also, Black Phone, I think is is a worthy addition to anybody's list. I think. So I know that most people haven't seen that yet, but check that one out. I haven't heard of Bodies. That's new to me.
Neither have I.
Yeah, it's coming out in August. It's, like you said, A24 horror comedy. It's about this group of kids that throw a hurricane party and people start getting murdered during it.
Oh, damn.
Oh my God.
I know, right?
Did I write that?
Right.
We've been there.
Been there. Minus the murders.
We've all been.
Well.
No. That you know of.
Right. There is a teaser trailer out for it. So check that out. And who knows? Maybe we'll be talking about that come August.
Sweet.
Nobody has said the Munster so far. Weird.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. I probably know.
We got a teaser.
I probably know. Good hearing from you, Grubby, man. I wish we would have ran into you during the festival. That would have been really badass.
I got to check out Sissy.
Yeah, Sissy and Deadstream, man. We were trying to catch Deadstream. We missed it, unfortunately, but I've heard so many good things about that movie. I'm really looking forward to checking that out as well. Good to hear from you, man, and hope all is well. Next up, we're going to hear from our boy Tom. Let's hear what Tom has to say.
Boys, this is Tom. I'm in hell right now. There are too many Blu-rays coming out. There's like Italian Blu-ray seen by 45 people in the past 30 years, scanned on the 4K and the original negative. Stop killing my daughter and son and all sorts of nonsense. It's too much, man. It's too much. Bob, help me. I know you can jet ski over here quickly. I know jet skis work on land, too. The special Bob Blu-ray jet ski works on land. Please help me from all these Blu-rays. Vinegar Syndrome's coming after me. Oh, no. Help!
Bob, the blue signal's up in the air. You got to go rescue Tom.
Signal.
Bob, how do you feel about encouraging this lifestyle that's ruining people's lives?
You're a pusher, Bob. You know that?
Hey,
Bob,
you're a real pusher.
Sounds like heaven to me. That is hilarious, though. I mean, only buy what you can afford, Tom. That's for sure. But I mean, the joke that Tom is making though is like, yeah, it's definitely getting to the point where like the movies that these companies are like digging up and releasing are movies that like fucking nobody's ever heard of. Like they came out and just like vanished, and they're like unearthing them in these archives like somewhere in Italy. And
isn't that the whole thing? Like,
yeah, and like some of them are actually like wonderful films, and like they've done incredible like restoration work and stuff like that. But some of them are just like so fucking obscure and just I don't know, man. Maybe they were forgotten for a reason. I love that they're doing it though, because otherwise they would.
She's a fancy flapjack.
What the fuck? They would just disintegrate, and the films would cease to exist, which would blow, I think. I
like the idea in preservation. You know me, I keep everything.
Preservation does not require marketing. That's all I'm saying. Like, if you want to preserve it, you can preserve it without marketing.
Sure.
I know that helps justify the cost, but
sure,
that does not necessarily justify the purchase.
It gets to the point where it's like, okay.
Yeah.
Is it worth it to have a library of movies that nobody wants to see?
That you yourself cannot watch. Like, how are you going to watch? Bob, I know for sure Bob hasn't watched like half those movies.
Oh, I've watched way more than half. I have not seen them all. That's for sure. I've seen way more than half, though. I would disagree with that statement. I've seen the majority. I've seen the majority of my movies. I don't know, Tom. Best of luck. Hopefully you get to watch that huge box of Vinegar Syndrome shit that you got coming to you. I know you went ape shit during their halfway to Black Friday sale, which, I don't know, maybe temper yourself. I don't know. Best of luck, Tom. Best of luck. Always good to hear from you. Last but not least, we're going to hear from the librarian. Let's see what she's got to say.
Uh-oh. She's going to leave us a series of clues.
Hey boys, it's Library Gal. Anyway, I was just listening to the Men episode because I don't usually like read reviews and then go, you know what, I'm actually not going to watch that. But I did this time because I saw something on Letterboxd for Men, and I was like, I don't want to watch that. Anyway, great coverage, thanks. Now I don't want to watch it. That's not y'all's fault. I just don't like the premise that it was, which, that happens. But anyway, y'all started talking about The Ruins. The movie from like the early 2000s with like the sentient plants. That's one of my favorite books. here I am again recommending a book. Every scene where they described, I don't know if they kept the name the same because I haven't seen the movie yet, but Pablo was his name in the book, but the Greek guy that has the thing in the hole with the thing, every scene that described his body fully disgusted me to the point where I was like, I'm going to put this down for a second, sip some water to sit back like the fucking baby vomit I just had, and then fucking read it again. I fucking love that book. It's so good. I hope it's accurate to the book, like movie accuracy, because I'm one of those bitches that get heavily annoyed. Like, I know you can't copy and paste the whole book into the screenplay, but some shit when people cut certain shit out, I'm just like, did you have to do that? The answer's no, actually. Yeah, I hope y'all are having a good day. Randy, I actually live in Baltimore. We should hang out, buddy. Yeah, so have a good one. Mwah. Love you guys.
Hey, tell me what
Randy.
library to find you at.
I was talking about The Ruins. I've not read the book. I'm sure the book is better than the movie because that just tends to be the way things go. As far as Pablo is concerned, like everybody in this movie, all the main characters anyway, they're like models, fucking movies, how they go. I don't know if like Pablo is like this gnarly dude in the book or not, but I don't know. I'd be interested to have you watch the movie and then circle back and see how it stacks up to the book. The movie's very effective, but like I can only imagine like the gruesome detail that the book would get into that the movie just can't quite do. I think it's worth checking out though. It is a good movie. So, maybe slam it into your eyeballs. Take a break from reading all those damn books, Check it out. You and Randy can watch it together. There you go.
Lord knows I'm not reading it because I have a hard time finishing a fucking book, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Your boy's illiterate.
It's a good movie though. Check her out. It's a good summertime watch too, actually. And God knows it's hot as shit. So perfect time. I don't know. Thanks for calling, Librarian. Always good to hear from you. Thanks for recommending another book. Maybe somebody out there will check it out of your library. That's all the voicemails we got this week. Again, if you're listening and want to leave a voicemail, call in at 904-638-3231. Gentlemen, do you have any prompts you want to throw out there for next week?
I don't know. We got a lot of good responses for this. I feel like if anybody is listening to this episode and not the last one, same questions apply. What's your most anticipated movie for the second half of the year?
Halfway, boys.
Yeah,
we're just about halfway. I'm just curious. I want to cull as many of those answers as possible because it's interesting to like hear about things that I didn't hear about this bodies at all.
Yeah,
it's totally news to me. I'm not hawkish about my horror news, obviously, but I don't know. I'm curious.
Also, we're about 3 weeks away from kicking off spooky season. So what are you doing to get ready, to celebrate the straight chilling spooky season? Here we go. 3 weeks.
You want to know what Bob and I did at the Overlook Film Festival? We went to that Halloween closing party, costumes mandatory. And I was dressed as Boom, Dennis Nedry. And buddy, I had the Barbasol.
Boys, did you go to the dungeon?
We tried.
It was closed up. Lack of staff.
Oh no!
It's so allegedly it's not permanently closed, but they had staffing issues, so they were not open when we were there.
It was a heartbreak.
Yeah, I fingers crossed. Hopefully they reopen very soon. It's a wonderful, wonderful bar to check out in the city of New Orleans.
You guys broke so many traditions. No hand grenades and no dungeon.
Well, some traditions are meant to die, but the dungeon is not one of them.
Oh my God. 20 years later, that thing's still kicking. Kind of.
It's a great bar. It's definitely worth checking out.
Allegedly. Yeah.
Well, call in. Let us know what your most anticipated horror film of the year is. We're halfway through. There's so much more shit coming out. Hit us up, 904-638-3231. That's going to do it for us this week at Straight Chilling. We're going to be back next week with a brand new show, as always. We're talking about the winner of the June poll, which is 1984's Threads.
Oh, thank God. A nice light watch.
Yeah, we're going back to back to back on our heavy duty shows.
At least we got Clue a couple weeks ago. So that's
true.
Fine.
We need another Clue in the mix. Jesus Christ.
I hope so. It doesn't look good for the next few weeks, I don't think.
It doesn't really look good for the next few weeks.
Oh, man.
Thanks a lot, Bob and
Oh,
Randy for picking such sad
This
things.
is on Randy. This is Randy's takeover month, so this is 100% on Randy.
The voters want what they want, assholes. Deal with it.
They
could
want
have had Duel, but nobody wanted it.
We could have had tea bags.
Tea bags. The John Carpenter film Tea Bags. We could have been talking about that.
Sure. Yeah. John Carpenter's world famous tea bags.
Tea bags.
Who wouldn't want that?
You got to steep them nice and long. Check out Threads. Get ready for next week's show. Until then, please rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. Follow us on Twitter at str8_chilling. On Instagram at Straight Chilling Podcast. You can send us an email through our website, straightchillingpodcast.com. If you want to join in on our daily Slack channel conversations, hit us up on one of those social media outlets. I'll send you a link so you can do so. And until next week, as always, all you mother truckers, please keep chilling.
Who's your favorite possum?